been reading a bit about permaculture in various sort of Twitter feeds, people asking what it's about and what you do. And I thought I'd show you my front garden. My front garden's tiny. It's in a north facing space, so it doesn't get much sunlight. North is in fact that way. And effectively permaculture is a system where you grow sort of multiple layers of plants in one space with as little tilling and turning over as possible to get crops. You kind of try to do it in as environmentally sensible way as you can, and usually what you do is you grow multiple levels of plants which mature at different times to give you the best cropping. I've got 3 layers in mine. In a full forest garden you might get away with 4, but I've got 3. My undergrowth, bottom, you'll notice it's wild garlic. There's also various shrubs like there's Japanese quince. That's actually a sort of Baltic variety of Japanese quince called cedar. And then above them we've got various fruit bushes. These are, I think, red currants. There are also some black currants back there and some drosterberries and some worcesterberries. In the distance you'll see some Himalayan bramble. There's also some gooseberry, black raspberry, various other ribes and rubus there. And above, up there, we've got a nut tree and a hazel tree. So that one's hazel tree and that one is a hawthorn tree. There's also a cherry laurel there as well. So as the seasons go by, you start harvesting some greens at the bottom. You then take off some berries. There and there we get nuts. Go around the front. There's a golden currant plant. In fact, there's a whole golden currant hedge. On this side, berberis. It's also a terrible wind trap, so it gets the litter. Berberis, which gets little dark berries. This side, this hedge is Elaeagnus. Elaeagnus is a great thing. It's a nitrogen fixing shrub which has these little dark red berries on, which aren't much to eat, but you can if you must. There's a fuchsia there, Fuchsia Magellanica gracilis. That will produce some tasty berries presently after the flowers. This side, southernwood, alpine strawberries, quince tree, and holly. The holly's there because the hedge to keep the kids who play in the alley out. And then with a Fanta can I've gained in amongst a pile of wood, big woody pile, which is a great thing for the hedgehogs to nest in. Oh yeah, and this is Polycerus trifoliata, some Japanese bitter orange, grows on the Isles of Sakhalin, practically in the dark. And in amongst the strawberries, a few other wild greens, or weeds as other people might call them, but they get harvested for the chickens and occasionally eaten for us. And at the bottom we have dewberry sort of peeking out there. I think in here somewhere. That one is a Japanese wineberry. So what you have is, oh yeah, right at the top there, big white rambling climbing rose at the top, because that gives us lots of flowers and a few rose hips. So the principle is very simple. You get different lights in different parts of a woodland. Early in the year, before the leaves appear on the top parts of the tree, you get lots of light coming through the forest floor, and you get leaves coming up through for plants, for bulbs and flowers, which you can harvest early. Then leaves appear on all the shrubs and start harvesting that light then, and you'll notice that the hazel there and the hawthorn aren't yet in full leaf, so there's still a bit of dappled light come through. Now the principles of permaculture gardening are great for a place like this, where you've got a very shady patch and you don't have a lot of sunlight coming in. Effectively, plants that will grow in the dark or grow in the shade are perfect for this kind of gardening. It's relatively low impact in that I don't really need to add anything to it. I probably gain more in bird muck than I use in fertiliser. I think I've put a drop of compost on here for 10 years, and you can see everything's growing quite happily. You don't really need chemical inputs. By attracting lots of birds and wildlife, you deal with most of the pests. You also lose a certain proportion of your berries, which is fine because I quite like seeing birds out the windows. You get interest from things flying around. The cherry laurel there produces a lot of nectar and scent at night, and of course that attracts moths, which in turn attracts bats, which is great to hear and see in the front garden. And by minimising the amount of tillage and the amount of work you do, you get a lot of crop for very little work in quite a small space. That makes it a really nice way of adding fruit and nuts to your diet, and having a little bit of wine, maybe a bit of jam if you want to do that. And having a lot of wildlife in your garden. Last year we had two families of blackbirds, one there and one there. We've already had collared doves nesting in there this year. There was a blackbird nest in the other corner of the garden a couple of weeks ago, but I think that blew out in the wind. So effectively, relatively wildlife friendly, really quite easy, quite pretty, quite shady, and very productive for a small space. What it isn't is a way of effectively and efficiently making calories. This isn't like digging this out and growing potatoes. This is not a productive garden in terms of being a staple crop garden. But if what you're after is turning a bit of space into something for berries and for just a bit of a nice snack sometimes in a wildlife friendly space, and something a bit different with a hedge which is a bit less dull than just privet, then go for it. So the species I've outlined will all do fine in a soil like ours in Cambridge, which is limey and dry, and a place which is quite shady. Where you are in different parts of the country will mean you'll have different plants that will do well. So go to people who are growing fruit plants close by and see what will thrive in the shade, and do that. So thank you for that. Thank you for following. More soon.